Roger, we always begin with anyone who was who heard everything that happened in the courtroom today. What was it like? We've read the transcript, but it seems like the judge, certainly at the end, took full control of this.
Yeah, it was very exciting. Everyone in the media room, had a sense that this is an unprecedented issue. It's an incredibly sensitive First Amendment issue, and there's really nothing. There isn't a whole lot of law on this generally. It's a little surprising. You would think it would come up more often, but where a party, as opposed to particularly an attorney, is creating this sort of issue, it's incredibly sensitive, and it was an exciting hearing.
Neil Katyal, Donald Trump said today that he's going to appeal.
Good luck with that one. That's going nowhere. And Roger's right that there's not a huge amount of case law, but the reason that there's not a huge amount of case law is because, Lawrence, no criminal defendant in their right mind would act the way Donald Trump is. I mean, the crazy part of this situation is not that a judge issued a gag order against a leading presidential candidate. The crazy part is that a leading presidential candidate has made a habit of threatening and attacking witnesses and prosecutors and court officials. That's the story. And Donald Trump is incapable of doing anything else. That's why I think it's like a coin flip, whether Trump's going to violate this gag order first or whether the House is going to elect a new speaker first. And so to me, like what happened today is, if anything, Trump getting special treatment. I mean, you can try and appeal this, but the fact is no other criminal defendant, Judge Chutkan's absolutely right, would even get away with what she's allowing him to get away with here. And the gag order just simply tells Trump to behave like he has a modicum of decency, which is probably why it'll be so hard for him to follow it.
Yeah, Andrew, my reading of the transcript, the judge seemed to indicate that no other defendant ever would have gotten this far. It would never have come to this. So there is this element of some special treatment here.
I think that's right. I agree with you. I agree with Neil on that. I would point out that the two cases that I can think of where this has happened, where there have been so-called gag orders with respect to not the lawyers, but the defendants, are Paul Manafort and Roger Stone. All defendants related closely to Donald Trump. And to tie it to this past horrendous week of violence, you have the former presidents of the United States now being subjected to two court orders in connection with a civil matter and a criminal matter, where the courts have said, and I'm quoting from Judge Chutkan, that his language implicitly encourages violence against public servants who are simply doing their job. This is the former president implicitly encouraging violence. And this is at a time that we are seeing what can happen when people resort to violence instead of the rule of law. So I think it's an important thing that the judge did here. I think it's an important thing that the state judge did in the civil case, and it remains to be seen whether he adheres to both of these gag orders.
And Roger Parloff, the judge let the Trump defense lawyer go off in a direction that she ultimately labeled campaign rhetoric.
Yes. She did. She commented that he was obviously speaking for an audience of one at times, and she tried to rein him back in. But the thing she said twice that struck me was she mentioned this famous line, "Will no one rid me of this meddlesome priest?" The line from Henry II before the murder of Thomas Becket. And obviously, she thinks these tweets are not just rude or impolite. They are, he understands that they are pushing his more unstable supporters to go out and harass and intimidate and threaten and possibly harm witnesses. And there is a record that he's done this in the past, and that's been the effect. And I thought she was very you know, adamant that this has to stop.